Welcome back to the Purpose Over Profits podcast. My name's Jeremy Powers, owner of Powers Insurance Experts.
And I'm Jim Floyd, owner of Ascent Total Performance.
And as we continue on in our leadership series, which has been incredible thus far, today we're going to have some fun and we're going to talk about people that have inspired us, or maybe not people. We'll get into that as we dive in.
Yeah. But first off, how you doing?
Oh man, I'm doing great. Just moved into a new home.
Yeah.
And if you ask my children, we are living in the Stone Ages, Jim, because we've been without internet for about 2 weeks, and I will say there have been times that life has been a little difficult. Unfortunately, the new development that we moved into, AT&T has not figured out we exist yet. So the cell phone towers don't quite go out that far. So the hotspot's it's not as hot as it used to be. And so we are definitely running on fumes, but it's so funny with my children. They get about 30 minutes of game time if they finish all their chores up and things like that. But my daughter's literally like, Dad, I don't know how you guys lived, and I don't know. It's just so fun. And just one of those joys that it's like, wow, like I know, thinking about when I was a kid and how my parents say, man, you have it so lucky now. And then to think about my kids who can just turn on and watch anything without commercials whenever they want to, how they feel. So it's been a lot of fun. I will never move again. I will go back and watch this if I ever decide to move again, because I'm telling you right now, don't do it, Jeremy. Don't do it. So, but it's been a lot of fun, man. But I'm excited to be here with you because that means it's almost over.
Yeah.
It's almost over. We scheduled this podcast recording well in advance, and so I knew that on this date I would have signed the dotted line and I would be one step closer. So I'm gonna embrace that and be grateful.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be a really interesting episode. We have a little different experiences with kind of learning leadership and how we would want to run a company and all that stuff. And so we'll just kind of dive into the different things that have inspired you, inspired me, and should be a good one.
That's it. And a lot of times they say it's a person. It's someone that has inspired you. And I do have a few of those experiences. And then when we were talking, for you, I mean, you've kind of just known everything since you were born. And I'm just playing. That is not the case at all. But, in a moment, it kind of felt weird because you had to say, man, there really hasn't been a person per se, but it's been what people have put blood, sweat, and tears into writing books and to putting out, knowledge base and things like that. But I really, in that moment, was like, man, there's other people that feel the same way. Yeah. And let's go ahead and break down that wall that everyone doesn't have to be on the Karate Kid and have that, sensei teaching them everything and building them up from scratch.
Yeah.
So for me, ultimately coming from a perspective of a person, I started out at a dealership at a young age because I found that the medical field was not for me. And so ultimately I remember walking into an Allstate office to get a policy as an insured and just thinking, man, this is just a really neat, has a good vibe to it,
There you go.
And, and so it was a great spot, and I fought really hard to gain that opportunity. And Lance Gore was the owner there at that spot. And, ultimately having, I'm going to say it and I'll tell it to him as well, as a very micromanagerial leadership style. Okay. But for me, I really needed that.
Yeah. Someone
that was willing to be all over everything I was doing, but also still wanted the best for me. It wasn't micromanagerial because I don't think you can do it, but it was micromanagerial like, hey, like, I believe that we can do it best if you do it, and then I also do it, and then it all happens, but I needed that.
Yeah.
And so what some people would see as, man, I can't stand this person, I saw it as like, I want to say a father figure, someone that wants to see you succeed, but they are also like, I'm not willing to let you fail. And I didn't understand it then, but it's because this is your business. This is your baby.
Yeah.
If the sale doesn't get made or you don't properly take care of that customer, the business, it could not exist tomorrow. And so when you spend money on marketing and on leads and you let go your customer base to this person who's green, that's scary, And so for me, that type of a leader, there's so many different styles, but that type of leader was actually exactly what I needed when I was willing to admit to myself that I didn't know everything.
Yeah. And I think that, so having that as that first experience really probably set the tone for a lot of your career. And then, of course you progress through different things. So I'm thinking, so for me, as you were kind of talking through that initial experience that you had, I was thinking about, I was like, so where did I get inspiration from? And And I think a lot of it was there was not a specific person. There weren't super specific, like I read one book and this is it. It was, I think it was an amalgamation of a lot of different experiences growing up. So participating in athletics and going through football and seeing the things that were necessary for leadership in an athletic contest. And even I remember as a kid watching like a lot of those like cheesy 80s movies and you seeing like the leader in those things. And I just remember looking at that. I was like, that's who I want to be. And just looking at those different, of course, it's all like super puffed up and all that stuff in the movies, but also some of those basic tenets of that, of like the honor and really kind of sticking up for people and doing all that kind of stuff. And I was like, that's who I want to be.
Yeah.
And so really kind of trying to model those kind of things as I moved up through different positions and different things like that. And ultimately kind of learning a lot of different things along the way through reading books, having great managers and not so great managers, and taking the things that I liked and I didn't like from all those different ones, and really kind of forming my own style of how I wanted to do things. And I think all those past experiences really informed who I became as a leader and who I continue to be as a leader too. And it's changing all the time.
Sure. And I think that's incredible because it's what you surround yourself with. It's what content you're taking in, and like, let that sink in, because what you are allowing yourself to just bring in. I've got a friend that listens to the same thing every morning. It's just like, man, you're capable. You're a warrior. You're going to, and for him, it brings up, it gets him mentally there to go crush his day. And it's the same thing. And so you listen to a book called Soundtracks, it talks about we soundtracks in our head. And it's like, if you could just turn on a different mixtape, going back to the mixtape or the CD where you write all the songs on it, know, if you're designing your own, there's no space for these things that are going to beat you up. And it sounds like you really did a good job of allowing the right content to help you, get there. And so for me, going back and really thinking about, starting back with Lance and then moving to the next one, but thinking back to Lance, he exemplified purpose over profits without me really seeing it or knowing. And I don't know if he necessarily knew it himself in that moment, but it was always bringing you into, I was like, hey, I want you to listen to this conversation I'm about to have, or, hey, let's do a little bit of, before role playing was cool. Like, was something we talked about so often. He was sitting there saying, hey, when it comes to life insurance, when it comes to this, like, it's like, here's what I've done. And the thing is he had the accolades to back it up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It wasn't somebody telling me, hey, this is how to do this, and they were just saying, hey, we're trying to wing it together. It's like, hey, no, I've done it, and here, young grasshopper, let me do that. And so I think that for me, from a leadership perspective, it's understanding, no matter where you are, we're all leaders, no matter where we're at. Just sometimes you're in leadership where you're over people, and sometimes you're leading just yourself, and yourself is sometimes the hardest thing to lead.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's understanding that it's okay to take that seat sometimes, to let the professor be over there and you're here in class learning.
Yeah.
And to understand there's going to be spots. And like you said, it's always a progression. You're always going to be leading and leading and leading and leading. Sometimes you're going to be teaching the class. Sometimes you're going to be sitting one taking it in. But what's just as important as leading it is understanding how to take it in.
Yeah.
And how to get better, because it is a never-ending progression.
Yeah, and I really like that concept. And so thinking back to my development even more too, is I really like thinking back to childhood and going through high school and college and all that stuff. Whether we were playing sports or just in any different scenarios, I was never going to be the person who walks in and just owns the room or anything like that. I always like to see others succeed. And I really, that gave me a lot of joy, in addition to succeeding myself too. And so I can remember like playing pickup basketball with my friends and all that stuff. And of course, I wanted to score points and do all that stuff too, but also got a lot of satisfaction out of just like helping my buddy get the ball and be able to score. And when we're playing intramurals or even in like college games and all kinds of stuff like that, of just being able to help support others and help to boost them up too. And I don't know where that came from, and that's always just something that I like doing and leaning in, and I didn't necessarily need the credit for everything.
That's right. And I'm so happy an assist is that's a stat that's scored in basketball, you know, and like, because I think that's a beautiful thing when you think about it. It's like the assist is just as important, is not just as important, because but a quality assist leads to points.
Yeah.
You know, a quality assist and wanting that. And I think it's that, like what you said, it's that mindset of wanting it for other people, because if you help enough people get what they want, you also get what you want. I'm going to say that's in the famous words of Zig Ziglar.
Yeah.
You know, but if you help enough people get what they want, so do you find yourself right there. And I think it has a little bit more pop to it, a little more zing to it, because what a beautiful thing have you built.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just a really cool process to kind of go through that. And, you know, on the converse end too, is so if you lean that way so much, then it's like, okay, you don't want to take credit for things that you do. And honestly, that's been a struggle for me, is that, you know, I was always like, I want to be humble. I never want to be that person that's just self-touting and all that kind of stuff. But then also kind of as we've gone through our processes as owners and leaders within our companies and all that kind of stuff, you do need to, at some point, take credit for what you've done and be happy about that and confident in that too, and not be shy about touting. It's like, you know what? Yep, I have done a good job with certain things and all that kind of stuff too. And I think that plays a big role in being a leader as well, because nobody is going to follow someone who's always like, I'm not really that good at it. It's just everybody else and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, no. I'm good at what I do, and I'm good at helping other people be really good at what they're doing too. And I don't know where that came from for me. I think a lot of it was a mindset things with reading different things, whether it's extreme ownership or there's a lot of like championship mindset things and stuff like that have been very, very influential for me. I don't think there's a specific person or anything like that, but being able to have that shift in mentality has made a big, big difference for me in just how I approach those things too.
Cocky confidence plus humility equals a true leader.
Yeah. And I think,
know, like that's just a thing for me. It's like, it's not one, it's not the other, it's the two.
Yeah. They're not mutually exclusive.
That's it. Because if someone, you know, if I'm not charging into battle with you, well, you're like, we're probably not going to win. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I mean, there's a little bit too, like, you start to scare me a little bit, you know what I mean? And so I completely agree with what you're saying. And, you know, for me in my journey, when it comes back to another person, because the Lord's just blessed me with people in my life. And so Stephen Price was the second agency. So he was in the medical world. My ex-father-in-law, have a ton of respect for him, but he said, hey, you know, I'm wanting to get out. Things were a little crazy in that world. Hey, I want to get out. Will you come open another Allstate with me? I'm happy we didn't go the independent route or anything else, because I really bled blue at that time, you know? And so it was really difficult, because I had to tell Lance, you know, there's this person I have a lot of respect for, and man, he handled it so well. You know, he was like, at least you're not going, you know, start a State Farm or started this or that. You know, so it was like, at least it's the same company. But, you know, he championed me through that, and we're still very close to this day, which once again gives me so much respect for him.
Yeah.
But what Steve did is he was different. Okay, because Lance knew it all. He had been there. He had been in a different company for years before. This was his world. Okay, he was always in the financial and the insurance type background. Then you've got Steve, who says, man, he's a great business owner, great thinker, very great thinker in my opinion, a lot of wisdom. But he knew nothing about insurance at the time. You know, he was just getting into it, and he was like, Jeremy really likes it and smiles when he talks about it all the time, so it must be fun. And then he quickly realized that's not the case. You know, and so what came then is the ability to truly lead an organization. But I thought, and I'll say it right now, Steve, I was wrong, because I thought that like those years that I led that organization from the sales perspective, I thought I was doing everything. I thought I was, you know, this, that, and the other. But as a true business owner, that's a lie. But the thing is that you have to be humble and realize that you were wrong. But in that moment, you can't see it. So listen, if you're running a business, but you're not the business owner, I'm telling you right now, you're wrong. Like, you don't do everything. You don't know everything. Opening a business tomorrow is not going to be what you think it's going to be. Would you agree?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think back to having those thoughts.
Yeah.
I was like, man, we just need to do this, this, and this. And being on the other side of it, you understand why certain things were the way where they were.
Yeah.
And you know, there's definitely always more things that you should be considering that you're just not aware of when you're in whatever role that is.
Yeah. And I think going back to it, I think Steve did a great job of making us feel important. It was the first time where it was like, hey, here's all these decisions. Let's make them together. It wasn't, hey, this is happening now. Let's go help you be really good at it. It was like, hey, all these things are going to happen, but I need your input. Mm-hmm. Because you understand insurance. So I almost had to pretend I was something that I wasn't. Yeah. I had, 3-4 years of experience at that point in time, but I had no clue what it was like to actually be the one making those decisions. So it was almost, baptism by fire.
Yeah.
But what metal's forged in fire. You know what I mean? The blacksmith uses the fire to create a weapon. And that is ultimately what I believed happened through someone being willing to be a leader, but a leader that was willing to delegate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so I think that through that, man, I learned so much from these two different types. One was like, hey, I'm all over everything and we're like puzzle pieces, we're together. And the other one was like, hey, we're completely different. So I'm going to manage up here, but I'm going to delegate to you to be able to do it. I would not be who I am today if it wasn't for Lance Gordon, if it wasn't for Stephen Price. Yeah. And so I say to both of you and all the people that have come along since I've become an independent agency owner, and the friends like you guys that I've made that have helped me become the leader I am, I'm only where I am because of people.
Yeah.
And because of people that gave me that opportunity. And so neat for you, it's not like, I'm sure you have a lot of people that you're friends with and people that you could say, man, they've really helped me add some different spices to this soup. You know what I mean? But yours is so different. It came from people being willing to put their content out there.
Yeah. And it's like, I mean, we talked ad nauseum about introversion and extroversion and all that stuff. My first instinct is always to go, well, let me go read about this or let me go research this and then I'll figure out, then I'll ask people questions and that kind of thing. And I think that just naturally led me to just pursuing different resources and stuff like that. Now, I will say, I think as far as people impacting me, obviously, I was blessed to have two awesome parents that were both in leadership positions throughout their things, and just them modeling that was a big impact for me. And then also just, I think I've learned, gosh, especially since opening up my physical therapy companies, I've learned a lot from my staff.
Yeah.
And trial and error, thinking to different situations of that went really well the way I handled that, but that did not when I did it this way. And just learning and being exposed to all the different personalities and all that kind of stuff. I have grown so much as a leader just through being exposed through all these different situations. And that's purely learning from the people that I'm fortunate to work with.
Well, I think it's cool because you can watch coaches and like the professionals. You're like, oh, well, that person played for this guy, and now they're a coach, and you can see that flavor. For me, when I'm leading this organization, I find myself, especially when I was at Steve's office leading a team, I was that very micromanagerial leader. And then I got called out a few times, and I was like, man, whoa, what a moment. Like, you don't even realize that you're operating these ways sometimes. And so I think it's cool how you can see those different flavors. And it's all about like, no one's right, no one's wrong. Let's just pull it all in and let's create something beautiful.
Yep.
And so what I would just say to you as we wrap this up, if there's a book, I mean, go reread it, but if there's a person, let's take a moment and show some gratitude. Like, if there's someone who's inspired you, go be an inspiration to them today and tell them thank you. I mean, there's no better feeling than someone coming to you and say, man, you've really made an impact in my life. And so I would say to the two of you that are sitting here with me, you've definitely done that just for me. So Daniel Yilmaz, I mean, just putting up with the two of us on a weekly basis. And Jim, man, your leadership is just next level. Couldn't ask for a better co-host to a podcast.
I need a tissue.
That's right. Don't worry, I have some. They're branded Powers Insurance. It's for all of our rate increases. We had tissues made for our clients.
Well, I will say too, it's been really fun to get to watch you kind of going through your journey with two and just with your like growing staff and I just like every time we come in here to record, board, I see how you interact with your staff and all that. And I was like, man, it's really cool to see.
I appreciate it. Well, guys, we hope you have a great week. Purpose over profits. We'll see you next time.
Yep.